from India Currents. Like and subscribe. It's not YouTube, but please follow us on Instagram. This is Yashu. You can follow her as well. And we're talking about Indian matchmaking, which is a very popular show that people binge watch really fast. So to give a little debrief for anybody that wasn't here, I haven't fully seen the show. Yashu has fully seen the show. I personally didn't want to watch past the first episode because it was a little bit triggering for me. I didn't feel comfortable perpetuating problematic structures. I also think it was a very limiting show in the way that they who they get to interact with. And then thirdly, I do think there is a socioeconomic barrier to hiring Seema Taparia because she mentions that people fly her out for anywhere that she's going. And flying someone from India is not cheap. It's not an accessible thing to hire her. And I looked it up. I think it's like $5,000 for every session with her, $2,000 to $5,000. So that's a big chunk of money that I definitely can't give. So that's my narrative. And now we're talking with Yashu about what she thinks.
Absolutely, and I've got here our pin here, so we're going to pin that for you guys so y'all know exactly where and how to follow us. Again, my name is Yashu Rao, and today we're talking about the Indian Matchmaker, and we're just talking about how the show made us feel from different perspectives, and we want to know what you guys felt about the show, so feel free to comment below, interact with us, let us know what your thoughts were. So kind of coming back around, and Srishti, if you can go ahead and pin this comment for us below so that people can definitely tap in with us. We were just talking about how, Seema Taparia, who is this Indian matchmaker, and thank you for the stats on that her charges are $2,000 to $5,000 a session, which I think is crazy, but I guess people are willing to pay that amount. And I think even when we look at the different characters that were picked on the show, we'll see that each of them kind of had what the culture would consider a drawback. So, for example, we had a woman who was very independent, but she was, 34, which is, according to the culture, way past.
Too old.
Right.
Yeah, too old.
And at some point, I know Auntie said something along the lines of it's going to be hard to find her a girl. And I'm pretty sure she said that for every client. She said, oh, it's going to be hard to find that person a match. And then there would be some reason. I know that there was Ankita.
Hey, that's the part of that's what they're doing. They're making good content for us to keep consuming because they're like, oh, it's so hard, but wait, maybe we'll be able to find somebody, Right. I think that's a media ploy, but go ahead.
Right. And I think, for example, Ankita, who is this 30-year-old businesswoman, and the fact that she was so independent, but then she was dark-skinned, and then also on the thicker side, Auntie was like, almost as if she had a lot going against her. And then we see people like Vyasa, who had a rough childhood with his parents. Being separated and how that was going to be a problem. So all of these problems, and then, magical matchmaker Auntie is going to come in and just kind of find them a partner. But with that being said, I'm pretty sure that nobody that Auntie was matchmaking actually worked out. I don't think any of them got married, which is, I guess, a little bit, concerning to the show. But I don't think that stopped Seema Taparia. I believe her business boomed when she got back.
Let me tell you, yeah, it's not only booming. She reached out to India Currents to see if we could find her some contestants for her show, or participants, whatever you want to call them. Are you? At the time I didn't know anybody, but if you really want to, I'm sure I could reach out to her to see if you could be on the show.
I mean, I would need a scholarship to, but hey, listen, I would bring great publicity to her show because, I'd be a thick Indian woman and you don't find a lot of us out here. So I know Auntie's going to have a really tough
time.
Okay. But for show, if you can reach out to Auntie, I will. How many of you want me to be on the show? Comment below. You want me to be on the show? Comment below. But
I will definitely reach out and see if this is a possibility. Because this was right on the heels of the show. All of a sudden everybody was watching it, and that's when they reached out, and that was a while ago. That was at the beginning of, I believe, the pandemic. Everyone was watching it in March or am I wrong? I don't remember the timeline of this.
Yeah, it was something along that. It was, I think July is when the show, it was July 20, it was, yeah, July 16th, I think, was when the show aired. So we got to comment here. That'll be awesome. If y'all want me to get on this show and for Auntie to hook me up, then y'all better comment below so we can get India Currents to get me on that show, y'all. But kind of coming back again, let's, kind of redirect here. The fact that we had all of these people be on this show, and for me, I remember as I was watching, you talked about the word triggers, right? I'm pretty sure as I was watching the show, people were DMing me like, girl, have you seen the show?
Oh,
but
yeah.
It was like, this could work for you, Yashu, because, you that plus size Indian woman. So maybe you do need an auntie who's going to, set you up.
Oh, my God.
Auntie's going to give you a hard time. I'm sure she's going to tell me to go work out and whatever, and she's going to see my lifestyle and notice that, okay, all right, Yashu doing her thing. But again, it's, I wonder how my parents would react. How did you?
I know, it'd be fun to put you on the show. I want you to go on the show now.
Listen, if y'all want Yashu on the show, hashtag Yashu for Indian matchmaking. Go ahead.
Oh my God.
Hashtag it.
We'll see if I can. Yeah. So yeah, that said, like, I can't imagine that this was as triggering for you as it was for me, because I definitely could not get past that first episode. Like, I know that I had people talk, so exactly similarly, I had a lot of people reach out to me being like, oh my God, have you seen the show? And then it became like this philosophical debate of like, is it, this show was like showing all the flaws of Indian culture. It's, it's exposing it. Like, isn't that good? Like, now people see what Indian culture is like, and like, they're actually having all people on the show that, like you said, are all people that wouldn't normally be on a show like this. And I don't know. Like, I guess actually, like, what do you guys think, the people watching this? Like, do you think that a reality show is a great way to document problematic behaviors? Because I don't know. Like, I think, like, if you're profiting off of that, then at the end of the day, you're still making money. We're still all consuming that media. We're all just like, yes, right? It's like The Bachelor. I think you could make that exact same analogy. Like, I used to watch it. I'm not going to deny that I watched it, because I definitely watched it for a bit. And it was like something that, like, I would watch and I'd be like, oh, like, I don't even know why I'm watching this, but it's so, I can't stop watching it, because it's like all the problems I see them, like, these women, why are they doing this? Like, why are they all fighting over this one guy? Or like, why is this happening? And it's almost like a train wreck that I can't stop. And at the same time, they're profiting from me because I'm continuing to watch the show. So
Absolutely.
It's like,
and I think, right, like, even so, kind of coming away from the idea of the show, because I think right now we're talking a lot about the idea of the show, the concept. But when we do think about that, it's kind of like, well, their motive is to make money, so they're going to do what they got to do to make that money, right? And I respect that. Listen, I respect that. If you want to throw a reality show and that's going to get the audiences going, then, like, hey, like, good job. Like, I give you that. But I think we should also kind of focus about the actual concept of Indian matchmaking, which is very foreign to a lot of different cultures. A lot of people, they don't understand the concept of, like, getting an arranged marriage. How that feels to, like, have the girl and the guy be set up and, like, to meet. And just as an example, one of the characters, who was Akshay, I think they meet at this, like, palace or whatever, where it's like the mom's family, I'm sorry, not the mom's family, the guy's family, and then the girl's family. And I know, like, the mom is, like, asking her all these questions, like, do you know how to make chai? Like, what is it that you want to be? Like, it turns into, like, interview process, where the families are interviewing the girl, and that process, like, and I'll be honest, like, I've been through that process with my family, where I was set up with an arranged marriage with that guy. Of course, it was awful, but, just to give perspective to people, the type of things that people look for, like, oh, yeah, the girl, and like you were saying, oh, the girl is tall, she's fair-skinned, she's skinny, like, all these Eurocentric beauty standards, which are the most important parts. And that's where it gets interesting, because then, on the flip side, you see a character like Ankita on the show, who was this very successful businesswoman, but she was not tall, she was not fair, and Srima Tapadia is like, oh, she not gonna get married. Now, in any other, like in other cultures, for example, you see a successful woman making her moves, doing her thing, like that's an attractive woman. How many of you who are tapped in right now think a woman who's got her shit down is an attractive woman? I think a lot of you would agree to that, right? But in her case, I know Simon Tapadia, she was saying how that was going to be a problem because she was too independent, you know, that she was too much of an independent money-making person, that was going to be difficult. A lot of times we saw on the show this concept of like compromising, but it's more so coming from the female side. So I want to know like your perspective, guys. Like, for example, we had a character, right, Aparna, right? We were talking about Aparna and how she was, you know, so successful, but the way they portrayed her to, you know, because she was so successful, she wanted so much from a person. And then Auntie was just like, no, you can't have all those things because there's something wrong with you, which was her age, that she was too old, you know? So to see that, I think, yes, there's that trigger factor that definitely kicks in. But then also to understand that this is a very real thing. Like, this happens in our culture. We see this. I see it all the time. We've got a comment here. It says, well, as a black man that's outside your cultural, I think the reality show of y'all culture should be really realistic.
So, and I don't disagree. Yeah, I don't disagree with what he's saying. Like, I do agree that it should be realistic. And I mean, what is a reality show, though? Like, I guess this goes into the concept of, like, what? I guess, like, a documentary would do a better job of capturing this. Like, Yashu has gone through some shit with regards to exactly this, Indian matchmaking. I have the pressures of getting married just because I'm close to 30, but if I was to go and do any type of Indian matchmaking, the first thing would be she's short, she's darker, you know, she's... I'm not a fucking model, and I work in nonprofit, so I'm not making a ton of money. So there's a lot of like, it doesn't matter how smart I am. It doesn't matter like what I have to offer. There's these like little things, and like what you said, like you're too successful, then it's hard. You're not successful enough, then it's hard. And it's just like, you have to be at this, like for the woman especially, you have to be at that sweet spot of like not too independent, not too like this or that. And it's like, the expectation from the women is unfair. And I think, like, I do think we should talk about that. I think we are talking about it right now. So it did start a conversation, but I think there's so much more to our society that was also not covered. And like for example, like your experiences, Yashu, like what you went through or what I would go through if I did that, if I was, you know, put in that situation, would be so different. Like, you've gone through some traumatic incidences because of this type of thing. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel? I feel like if I were you, I'd be even more triggered. I'd be like, this is actually hard to watch and like take seriously.
I would definitely say, okay, so the take seriously part, I took it seriously. I took it seriously because I found it to be very accurate. Accurate in the sense that these things are real problems. And in a sense, like, I'm happy that the show was highlighting these things, but also, you know, it kind of shows like the sad reality. Like, it's kind of like, why would you go watch a sad movie, you know? So I think Srishti's coming from a space where she's like, why would you go watch something that's going to hurt you versus other people who are like, watching this to validate that, wow, this is really happening. Like, I'm not the only one in the world who this is happening to. So I guarantee, like, again, if y'all get me on the show, again, hashtag Yashu for Indian matchmaking, y'all get me on the show, I promise you, I think Seema Tapadia auntie is definitely going to say, because Yashu is thick, we have to find her a thick partner. She will never suit a young, skinny boy. I will guarantee people try to pair me up with someone plus size as well. Because that's a trend that I've noticed in my culture where people are like, oh, because she's fat, because she's thick, because she's curvy, we need to find her a man like that. We need to find her a man who's weighs more than she does. And to my understanding, listen, I think I'm quite attractive. So I'm not saying that plus size men are not attractive, but to see that like suddenly you're trying to like, you're bringing me down, but then you're also now creating this new, the stereotype and putting other people down. So it's kind of like a chain reaction, which I don't think is fair. And so if anything, what I would have found refreshing is Seema Auntie came in as the matchmaker and said,
and talked about it.
And she said, you plus size, well, I don't give a shit. I'm going to find you the most amazing man who is going to be, right, exactly.
Yes,
Or
it was that. That was what was missing from the show. I think, take the show out of it. If Seema Taparia was a progressive Indian woman talking about how these people are breaking cultural norms and how they've done so much. Yeah, exactly. Aw, you're so beautiful. Yeah, you shouldn't even worry about this shit. But yeah, like if she had introduced that conversation, created a dialogue, and like broken those standards, I think this would have been such a different situation. But because it wasn't, she capitalized on the fact that these people, have to fit these norms. That is, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. That's where we were missing. That's what we were missing from the whole thing. Like, absolutely. A documentary might expose it and then have a conversation around it. We never had the conversation. People just consumed it. And then it was like, this is Indian culture. And I feel like we also have to talk about the fact that this is not just Indian culture. This is a lot of culture. This is not just our culture. That's just the standard of beauty that our culture has imposed on us, whereas like there's other cultural norms and that exists in Western society as well. So we're not like better than them or anything like that. It's just like it exists all across the board in every society. So Indian people are not the only people doing this shit. But the issue, I think, here is like you said, you didn't have the dialogue. And I wish we had. I guess we are now.
Right. And we got a great comment here from Melissa. She said she's more traditional and brought up in a different way. Like she does her matchmaking more traditionally. And I agree. Of that. There's a lot of matchmakers that, especially like from where I'm from culturally, right, who are just like Seema Auntie, okay, maybe not on the money level, but they just like Seema Auntie in their perspective of how women should be and how men should be or whatever. But again, because this is a Netflix series, I think as a viewer, you're kind of looking for that ray of hope, like, Seema Auntie is going to give, she can find the most difficult situation and she can find a partner for them. So you're kind of anticipating this like happy ending, but it's so sad to see that nobody on the show found
gets together.
Even the guy who like supposedly got engaged, he broke off the engagement.
Broke it off.
After, but they didn't show that. So you see, like, it is a very broken system, and it sucks. And that even though you've got people like Seema Auntie, that no, not even them can like get you matched with the right person. But again,
it's also it's a negative feedback loop too, right? So it's like we're showing this, and then it's supposed to work, but then it doesn't work, and then people continue to do it because now that's what's being shown, and like. It's just like a weird feedback loop of like, that's what's expected. Now I'm going to do it, but it's not working, but I'm going to keep doing it because that's what everyone's doing. And it's like, it's just so wrong. And I think like the pin, it says stars are aligned. And I think we really need to break into this one because astrology for me is such a hard thing. In Indian culture.
In the show, so just to give people reference to what that was, right? So in the show, and as we said, Auntie was a traditional matchmaker, so she was using things like face reading, palm reading, looking at astrology, zodiacs, and stuff like that to match people. So at one episode, she took the picture of Nadia and the picture of another guy, and she showed them to this astrologer, and the guy looked at the picture and said, oh yeah, gonna be a great couple, they're even gonna have twins. The guy ended up flaking on her, never showed up, they never went on a date, it never worked out. And her response to that, right? So you believe in all of this astrology stuff, but he never even showed up. Like, what you talking about twins? Like, he never even showed up. So
I think this show will make Seema Taparia think twice because everything she did kind of fell apart, which I think is awesome in some ways. We're talking about astrology. People don't even know. Hinduism is so so linked to all these astrological things like star signs and star charts and things like that, that you cannot get married to the person you love because your star charts don't align. It's called kundalini matching. If you're ever trying to like get really into this, like learn the problematic structures of kundalini matching, because people cannot get married. Like Seema Auntie will be like, these two, their stars charts don't align, they can't get married. I know like my one of my very good friends for a long time couldn't get married because her star chart didn't align with the guy that she was in love with, and his family was like, no, you guys cannot get married. And obviously like familial networks and structures matter to everybody. So like, why are we holding on to these things is my question. Like, Seema Taparia, this guy didn't even show up. Why? That's the question.
With that being said, listen, like, I think we, and this is important to address to our viewers too, like, we respect everyone's beliefs here. I personally am a believer of astrology, but not in the same way. I wouldn't use my astrology to pair me up with a man. I use my astrology in a completely different way. So I think it's all about perspective too. And maybe traditionally we did use astrology and things like that to match people up, but in this day and age, that's not a practice that people are really doing. So for a lot of the youth, it comes as a surprise, or it comes as a like, the fuck? Like, you know, it comes at a really difficult kind of perspective. But at the same time, I think it's very important to address that there are people who go with this. They, you know, they stick with this. And so, again, no shade to nobody. We respect everyone's beliefs and whatnot. But again, in the show, again, to put that in the show, right? And again, it's that happy ending kind of thing we're looking for. You know, and that's where we kind of felt like, okay, now you're just making Indian people look stupid, you know, from the Indian perspective, because like people who are watching this, they like we gotta comment right here. That guy was all wrong, and yeah, he was. And so for the outsider, people must be thinking like, y'all Indian people stupid. Like, why would you go with that? Like, well, how will you read two faces on a cell phone and tell me they're gonna work out, right? So it's completely understandable. With that being said, I know Auntie, she be tripping, like, as soon as this incident happened, she said, well, if the stars aren't aligned, my efforts are meaningless. So this was the dialogue that she said. And that really caught people off guard. That caught me off guard. I was like, hold up. Hold the fuck up. I was like, I can't. I need a break at this point. But yeah, so that's just to give perspective to the whole concept of looking at people's horoscopes and trying to match people up.
I think like you're totally right. There's no shade if that is what you believe and that is what you want your partner to have. I think that is absolutely okay. But I think what we're talking about here is that this is not set up by you. It is set up by other people and other forces and your parents, and like there's a lot of involvement of other parties. And just having that, I think not even just astrology, as we talked about, it's like socioeconomic status, your caste, your height, your skin color. All of these things are playing such a huge role in who you're getting to meet through a matchmaker at this point. Potentially your parents are very involved in, maybe not, because I know on Indian matchmaking, like it was kind of a toss up. Sometimes, like I know for one of them, like the mom was like, or for 2 or 3 of them, like the mom was super involved, and then for the others, they weren't. So, but still you're going through you have a mediator. So like having another person filter for you already creates all these things. So then using astrology as another portion of that is also like, it's not your, I mean, I don't know. It could be your decision. I guess you could. Okay, here's how I want to reframe this argument. In matchmaking, you could decide what your standards are, and they could be nothing or they could be everything. And I think that also like heavily depends on the matchmaker that you choose. So like Seema Taparia was asking those questions and she was using those methods. And if you're okay with that, then that's cool. But maybe the question is like, why are you asking for those things? Like, why is that happening? Can you find a matchmaker who can find somebody based off of maybe similarities in personalities, beliefs, something else? Like, I think right now, just like a standard, like a generalization. Yeah. And some of the guys didn't want it and had no choice. That's even problematic too, right? Because you're not getting a say in who you're going to marry for the rest of your life. And the pressure of marriage is also real. Like, yeah, Melissa, you're making all these good points. yeah, Yashu, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think I agree, and I think it's it's such a sticky topic, you know. Um, I know. Okay, so as an example for Akshay, right? Who when you asked first, you like, you know, what kind of partner do you want? He says someone like my mom. That was his like go-to answer. And then you'll see someone who I believe that was Akshay, but and then you'll see someone like Pradyuman who, you know, who had this whole list, like she needs to be this, she needs to be that, she needs to be
Yeah.
this. So I think like, and then in that mix, right? Like in that whole mix, and then you throw in astrology, it could definitely get really sticky. Now, I wonder, here's what I wonder, like what, say, okay, y'all get me on Indian matchmaking. I'm gonna throw some curveballs at Auntie, right? If Auntie gonna be like, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do some astrology stuff. I'm gonna be like, oh, well, I don't believe in astrology. What you gonna do about that? Just to see what she would say, you know, like I don't believe in that. But I think at the same time, she's also kind of like, and this is where I think this is Auntie's job is going to become harder than it was, because I can say, well, you used the same tools last time and you weren't able to fix nobody up, so I don't believe in astrology. We ain't gonna go that route. I don't know what she's gonna say, because if anything, if say it was working for her, right, then she would have been like, listen, this is my like proved strategy, you know, like 100% guarantee, like the Seema Taparia way works for matchmaking, like y'all better tap into this, right? Versus it not, you know, manifesting into that. So I think with that being said, we are looking at 6 people out of what she claims to be hundreds of people that she's actually gotten to a state of being married and having kids. So in that aspect, is the show skewed? Like, do her methods work? Did astrology and everything work? Did we just pick out the ones that just didn't work out, and that's what the show was showing us? What do y'all think?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I wonder, like, I don't know. I wonder if, you know, it is more dramatic when someone doesn't get picked, but at the same time, people want to see a happy ending. So I don't know if they picked people based off of that, because it would just seem like very difficult to know what would or would not work. But I think what we have discussed at this point, it sounds like to me, is like you're all welcome to choose a matchmaker or not choose a matchmaker, but when those things happen, you have to be very cognizant of like how you're interacting with the matchmaker. I do think a matchmaker could be useful. Like if you feel like your parents, you know you best and they can tell somebody that and they can get you the right person, then why not? Like I don't see any problem with matchmaking. I just think that like standards of beauty, standards of like how women should be acting. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. She must have some amount of success if she's charging 5K. I agree. I don't know her success rate, and I do want to say that also one thing in Indian culture is that people will kind of blindly follow, like if their parents are like, you have to get married to this person, they'll do it. And then there's the stigma of divorce, and they won't get divorced even if they're unhappy. So I bring into question a lot of things, like when that decision is not fully yours and like you're doing something because your parents asked you to, then like at that point it could be successful, because my parents had an arranged marriage. Oh yeah, I'm sure there was some sampling bias for sure for people who wanted to be on the show. Like people like Yashu were like down to confront stereotypes, because all of the people on the show were confronting stereotypes. So definitely,
Listen, for Indian matchmaking, y'all better hashtag it. I'm putting it in the comments again.
I would love for you to be on it, and then we could talk about what your experience was like. Hey, if you get married through Indian matchmaking, I will eat my words, and I'll be like, fuck, this all works. Like, I don't even know if it works or not. It's like what you said, like, is there a sampling bias? Like, is there, like, is it self-selecting? Like, who's, then the people on it are not getting married because of they're the type of people that would be on our show. I don't know. I don't know anything. So, yeah, it's really good to hear from other people and see what they think, because I definitely have been, like, ruminating on it in my own mind for so long at this point, being like, I don't know what I think about it. But I think actually we should wrap up. It's been almost an hour. Yeah. Maybe that's why the show. I don't know.
That's what I think. I think the show definitely. I think she's definitely worked with a lot of people, but I think they definitely handpick. And I'm sure, like for any show, right? And this is kind of on the back end. Like any show production, you always work out with multiple people. She probably did this thing with 20 people, of which they ended up picking 6 of the hottest ones. And like they said, right, in the post interview part, like Aparna was saying, like, hey, they were cutting out pieces. Like, for example, they were talking about humor, and she's like, wait, people look for humor in people? Like, I don't even like humor. But in the interview, she was saying, well, Auntie kept asking me, and finally I was just like, listen, like, I don't even care. Like, I'm not, like, humor is not something I necessarily look for in a partner. There's other things I would rather look for in a partner. Like, if the person's funny or not, like, I don't really care about that. But that's not what they, took from it. They, like, twisted her words in a sense and, like, made her out to be someone who she claimed that she wasn't. So I think there's a lot of, like, and even, like, for example, the guy
that's what I'm saying. Is this how real is, it's a reality show. Like, that's why I question, like, what are we seeing? Because a documentary would not put all, I mean, it would still have bias. Everything has bias. It has the filmmaker's bias. But something that actually starts a dialogue, has conversations with the people about what they're experiencing and things like that would be more informative than a reality show that's just kind of maybe just, also keep in mind, this is for a global audience. So, like, what do they think people are going to like? Like, maybe they're going to like us showing all these flaws and not showing, like, maybe the successful stuff, and maybe not show. This is coming from someone who's critical of the show. So I'm actually playing devil's advocate and saying there's a possibility the show had more to offer and we didn't get to see it. And, like, Aparna, who was a boss bitch, she was a real boss bitch, and they showed her in a way that was very negative. Why? Like, why was that a choice that was made? And I want to talk about Pradyuman for a second, because we actually did interview, India Currents did interview him after the show. And he said that after the fact, because he was a jeweler and because he liked to cook and because he liked all these things, he was, like, being harassed for being gay. And people were questioning his sexuality, and he was just like, I like being this person. Like, I like cooking and I like doing that. And I like jewelry and I like diamonds and I'm a successful man. Like, why is my sexuality being questioned? And Indian culture tends to do these things. So I thought that was a very interesting point that he made. I think these people that went on the show were self-aware. Like, they knew what was going on. Like, you would be, I would think, if you were on the show, right?
Oh, I'm ready, honey. I know the problems I'm going to be facing on this show. Hashtag Yashu for Indian matchmaking.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, for real. I actually, even before I watched the show, I saw, like, so much, like, Twitter feed that were like, oh my God, my heart going out to Nadia. Like, Nadia's the sweetest girl ever. And then also, like, oh my God, Pradyuman is totally gay. And it could have been the portrayal, like, when I first, and then you see Akshay, who didn't even want to get married, it seemed like, and then suddenly, curveball, he's the first one to get hitched, and then suddenly he's like, oh, I'm in love. But then when the later interview that came out, he was just like, y'all were twisting my words, like, that's not what I was trying to say, or, and it could also be the people who, like, maybe the realization after the show where they were just like, we were kind of the guinea pigs, weren't we? I don't really know how I felt about that. I don't really think that was true to who I am. Maybe I was pretending to be someone I wasn't. So you start to see all of these different things, like, coming up, where exactly what Srishti is saying, where you're coming away from that real life scenario. Like, for example, right? How many of y'all have seen Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Obviously, everything we see on there is not realistic. It's not gonna be. There are going to be things which are hidden and not coming up to the light. Yeah, maybe a lot of things are exposed. Maybe some things are staged. But a lot of things will not come out because there's just a certain level that you don't allow people to come out with. So I think that there's always going to be that bias that goes on. Which is why it would be interesting, right? It would be interesting for a person who's seen the show, and seen everything and has his opinion about it to then actually go through the experience. So I would be, you know, like really interested to see if there's anyone maybe in season 2, if there's a season 2 that comes out, to see if, you know, how those people found the experience, especially after watching the show. I definitely.
It's gonna be you. You're gonna be on season 2.
Yashu for Indian matchmaking. If y'all don't tag me now, I swear. Listen.
You have to put that as your tag in every single photo you post at this point.
Everything. Starting this point,
I will hook you up. I will hook you up. I'm gonna make sure this happens, because I am also like, I personally didn't know anybody that was interested in doing this. So like, now that I know, I'm definitely gonna reach out and see if it's possible. But I think it gets us to question our own biases, like, why am I so opposed to Indian matchmaking myself? Because I mean, I know why, because I've had Indian people say some mean shit to me. So I'm like, why the fuck would I let them decide who I'm going to date? I'm not going to let them decide who I'm going to marry. That's like a whole other thing, right? So, but that said, like, I think it can definitely work, and I think it can work for people who are like open to the process and open about who they are and like considering this dialogue. So Yashu, it's possible for you to go on the show and totally fall in love and find the right person for yourself. So I am praying this happens for sure. I really want it.
Let Seema auntie know I have got a firecracker for you, auntie. Okay. And I will make sure that that show be extra masala spicy for y'all. I will bring on every single part of Niyama energy to the show. Make sure you tag hashtag Yashu for Indian matchmaking. For real though. But bringing up, I
don't know who's gonna be tagging this, but I'll put it in the tag for this video for sure.
For all I love that. Tap in today. We appreciate you so much for coming in and giving us your dialogue and your perspective. And we'll definitely, this is a topic that y'all enjoyed. We'll definitely dive in a little bit deeper, because I definitely want to talk about some of the very the very eye-opening scenes that we saw in this show that we didn't get a chance to talk to you about today, but we'll definitely bring this back around in another episode. Moving forward into December, we've got another whole topic for the month. Last November's topic series was all about marriage and dating. We're going to dive into other topics like career, sexuality, all of these different things. So be sure to subscribe, follow India.currents. Be sure to follow our amazing editor right up here, Srishti with Prabha Lambs. It's right here in the pin. And of course, your girl Yashu Rao plus model and confidence coach. Y'all can follow me at the Yashu Rao. Be sure to hashtag me, y'all, Yashu for Indian matchmaking.
Also, if you've enjoyed this content, today is Giving Tuesday. All donations are being matched by Newsmatch. So if you can, please donate to India Currents. We really require some amount of money to keep going. Thank you, Austin, for listening. Donate to Yashu too. Yeah, donate to Yashu too.
I want to donate to India Currents. How do I donate? How do I donate?
Oh, how you donate? The link is in our bio. If you go to India.currents, you'll find the first article in our link in bio will take you to our donation account, and you can donate, and your donation will be matched. That'd be awesome. If not, that's even $1. Like, even if you can give $1, you'll get some swag. So I'm just saying, it would be cool. We have
Listen, y'all.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
I'm donating right now. Here we go. Right here, right now.
Oh my God. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Austin, for listening to us talk about this topic. I think it is quite nuanced, and I know that we'll have to talk about it more again some other time. Actually, Yashu, I think next time I should make sure to watch the whole show before we talk about it, because I think it'd be interesting for us to talk about like specific scenes and instances. It was just so hard for me the first time to start, and I think the pandemic had just started, and I was just like, I cannot do this right now. But
I think that happened to me too. I think because I think suddenly all your insecurities kind of like come to the forefront. So yeah. I definitely started, and I heard like, especially seeing someone as beautiful as Aparna, and then Auntie just finding so many things wrong with her. You know, I suddenly was just like, oh my God, if I go on that show, they're going to rip me apart. But now I'm like, listen, hashtag Yashu for Indian matchmaking.
I'm ready to be ripped apart. No, you got this. You're going to rip them apart. You're going to kill it. I know it. And I'm going to find a way to get you on there.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining for the last time. You will find this video on India.Currents if you're interested in what we thought. Oh, my God. Thank you for donating, dude. That's really cool of you. Wow.
Click on the
Thank you
link
for
in the
donating.
bio, go to India.Currents. You go to India.Currents and you click on their link bio and you're going to see the page to donate. Donate $1, donate 50 cents. It don't matter. Donate something so you can keep the content coming. I just donated because I love this content and India.Currents is the best Indian American magazine out there in the world. So keep supporting, keep loving, keep doing what you do.
Thank
All
you.
right.
And Yashu's article should be coming out in not India.Currents, but on IndiaCurrents.com. Her next, in the next issue, you should see her article. So you should log in and check it out, subscribe, and all that. All right. Bye, everybody.